Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday, Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the New York Mets. We have an afternoon game for Tuesday, 1:10 Eastern. Aaron Nola and Jose Butto are your starters. Interesting game here. Aaron Nola struggled quite a bit in that last game against the Blue Jays. Not what we were expecting to see. He was in great form going into that start, but he only went 5 2/3, giving up 9 base hits and 4 earned runs. He still had 7 strikeouts by the end of that game, no home runs given up, and no walks. Nola is somebody that usually has one bad inning, and that one bad inning can kind of take over the entire game. And we saw that in the 6th inning in that last one against Toronto, where it was a tie game going into the 6th, and then Nola got into some trouble and ended up losing that game for the Phillies. But Nola last year had some mixed results against the Mets. I think he's still the much better option to start this game. And really, the big thing for me is the Phillies lineup. I mean, in the last month, #1 in baseball in team OPS against right-handed pitching. Butto also, after a really strong start to the season, starting to regress a little bit. We saw in that last game 3 earned runs in 5 innings. It wasn't miserable, but a home run given up, 3 walks to go with it, only the 3 strikeouts. I think Nola's the better option to start this game. Now, the price isn't amazing, but I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies on the money line. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Chris Bassitt and Kyle Bradish are your starters. Chris Bassitt's actually had back-to-back quality starts. We know he struggled, especially in that game against the Dodgers on April 26th, and that really hurt his ERA, and it's still above 5 on the season. But it's nice to see him improving in those last couple of games. The problem is we haven't really been able to trust him, at least consistently, on the road. That was the case last year, and so far this year, that ERA at 5.14 with the 1-3 losing record. Bradish has been really sharp to start his season. His first 9 2/3 innings, he's got 14 strikeouts, no home runs given up, a 1.86 ERA. Even if Bassitt puts together a solid outing, I still think the Orioles have the better lineup and the much better bullpen in this game. So I got to side with the Baltimore Orioles on the money line in this one. Next up, the Detroit Tigers taking on the Miami Marlins. Ryan Weathers and Reese Olson are your starters. Ryan Weathers has been a lot better recently. His last 2 games, quality starts against the A's and Dodgers, but the Marlins aren't backing him up. I mean, this lineup has struggled mostly this year. The bullpen also not been great, and the Marlins are 0-4 in Weathers' last 4 starts. And this is not really an easy matchup because, Weathers, while he's pitched better recently, he's still giving up a lot of home runs. He's given up at least 1 in each of his last 5 games. His strikeout numbers have been very inconsistent. In the last 12 innings, only 8 Ks. And you're facing a Tigers team that offensively, not really, known for being great, but in the last month, they've been solid against lefties. They're top 10 in team OPS, top 15 in isolated power, pretty low strikeout rate. So I think they can get to Ryan Weathers for a few runs. And Reese Olson's pitched well. I mean, he's 0-4. The team has not backed him up also, but he's got a sub-3 ERA, solid numbers, and no home runs given up this season at all. In 39 1/3 innings, that's pretty impressive. You add to the fact that the Tigers have the much better bullpen. I think the Tigers finally get Reese Olson a W. I mean, he's faced a really tough strength of schedule. The last 5 games alone, Rangers, Twins, Royals, Yankees, and Guardians, all winning teams. So I think in this spot, we see the Tigers grab the W. Give me the Tigers on the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Boston Red Sox. Aaron Civale and Nick Pivetta are your starters. It's interesting. In this matchup, we got a very hitter-friendly ballpark at Fenway Park where we do see a lot of home runs hit. And you got 2 starting pitchers that in their careers, the home run ball has really hurt them. Civale is usually good for a home run per game. He's given up at least 1 in 4 of his last 5 starts and 8 home runs on the season. While Nick Pivetta, we saw his first start back from the injury in the last game against the Braves on May 8th. 3 home runs and 5 earned runs in only 4 innings and a 5-0 loss. So that was on the road. Now Pivetta returns to Fenway Park where he hasn't pitched there yet this season, but last year and years prior, he's had some struggles there. So I worry about Pivetta. I don't love Civale either, and I don't love the fact that he's not pitching deep into ball games recently, going less than 5 innings in each of his last 4 starts, but I do think he's slightly the better option in this game. I like the fact that the Rays bullpen's improving, and to me, the value lies with the road team in this one. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay Rays on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Atlanta Braves. Jameson Taillon and Chris Sale are your starters, 2 starting pitchers that are in great form right now. I mean, Chris Sale, it's nice to see him have a strong start to the year. He's somebody that 5-10 years ago was annually one of the best pitchers in baseball, but injuries really hurt him, especially during his time with the Red Sox. and he hasn't really been able to stay on the field very often, or his performance has been inconsistent. But now we see him, 5-1 with a sub-3 ERA, great strikeout numbers, very low whip, and he's doing a better job recently at limiting the home run ball. I think he pitches well in this game, but Tyone also, it's a smaller sample size, but 24 innings and a 1.13 ERA, very low .88 whip as well. He's not really earning a ton of strikeouts, but we did see 7 Ks in his last game in 6 innings against the Brewers in a shutout, and the Cubs are 4-0 in his first 4 starts this year, so he's been excellent, not giving up more than 1 earned run in each of his first 4 games. I'm going to go with the under here in Chicago. Atlanta should be a lower scoring game. The Braves offense has not been as potent as we saw at the beginning of the season and what we saw all of last year, even against, especially against righties, where you look at the numbers in the last month. Let's pull them up. The Braves 24th in isolated power against righties, 25th in team OPS, and a 25.2% strikeout rate. So they're, well below league average against righties in the last month. I think we see a low scoring pitcher's duel. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Minnesota Twins. Carlos Rodon and Chris Paddack are your projected starters. Now, it's tough, even though both of these starting pitchers are in great form, it's tough not to like the offenses in this game because the Yankees have crushed right-handed pitching all season long, basically, while the Twins, in the last month, they have crushed lefties. They're top 5 in team OPS, top 10 in isolated power, very, very low strikeout rate against southpaws in the last 30 days. And, Carlos Rodon, he has not pitched too well on the road this year. 23 2/3 innings, a 278 opponent's batting average, and an ERA just below 5 compared to at Yankee Stadium. 19 1/3 innings, a 188 opponent's batting average, almost 100 points less, and a 1.86 ERA. So I've mentioned the regression concerns with Carlos Rodon. We faded him in that last game against Houston, but that was a game at Yankee Stadium, and you got to give Rodon credit. He pitched well in that game, but I don't necessarily love this spot for him. And while Chris Paddack, like I said, it's not an easy matchup against this New York Yankees lineup, he has been really, really solid at Target Field this season with that sub-2 ERA and 23 innings of work, 31 strikeouts as well. He's not been great on the road, but he's been very backable when he's pitching at Target Field. He's in excellent form right now. Had 10 strikeouts in his last game against the Mariners. And when you look at the bullpens, while the Yankees bullpen has been very solid in terms of the ERA, the expected numbers are not great, and I do expect a lot of regression for this Yankees bullpen going forward. We're already starting to see that a little bit. We saw in that Rays series, they had some issues, especially on Saturday. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins. I trust their bullpen, and I like their matchup more. And honestly, this is a one-sided rivalry. The Yankees have dominated the Twins in postseason, especially in the last decade plus. So the Twins have always had it out for the Yankees because, the Yankees are the Yankees. But I think Minnesota gets some revenge and it gets a big win over their rivals in this one. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Quinn Priester and Joe Ross are your starters. Now, it's tough to back Quinn Priester in a game like this because his Pirates have just not been giving him any love this year, both with the defense. I mean, you look at the Quinn Priester's first 4 games. In 3 of those 4 games, he's had 1 unearned run or more in those games. He had 2 of them in the last game against the Angels. And then when you look at the run support, the offense has given them 1 run combined in the first 4 games this year. They've been shut out in 3 of the 4 Quinn Priester starts. 9-0, 4-0, 3-0, and then 8-1. They scored the 1 run for him back on April 19th. So it's not been easy to be Quinn Priester these days. He's 0-3, but like I said, sub-4 ERA. He's not pitching poorly. He's just not getting any help. Now, does he get the help in this game? I think he could. I mean, the Pirates have been miserable against right-handed pitching, that's for sure. But Joe Ross has also been miserable at home this season, where he's 0-2 in a 13 1/3 innings with 10 walks given up. The control has been way worse at home than on the road. So for me, this is a tough one. I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh. I think the value is there. But like I said, I mean, the Pirates have really not helped out Quinn Priester this season. So I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go the other way. I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Chicago White Sox. Mitchell Parker and Eric Fedde are your projected starters. Mitchell Parker's pitched well in his first few games as a Major League starter. I mean, he's faced a really tough strength of schedule. Outside of that Marlins game, he's played the Dodgers, Astros, Rangers, and Orioles. Some great lineups, some winning teams. I know the Astros have struggled to start the year, but they're still a very tough lineup against lefties. So Parker's pitched well to have that sub-3 ERA through that schedule. Really impressive. Now you get to face the White Sox, who in the last month have not been good against lefties at all, really. And Eric Fedde also on the other side pitching really well this season. We mentioned the other day with Chris Flexen and Trevor Williams, veterans that are off to good starts of the year. But Eric Fedde also in that mix, somebody that went overseas last year, was the KBO MVP, returns to the major leagues this season, and has pitched very well. He's facing his former team here in the Nationals. I think both pitchers pitch well. I like the under in Nationals White Sox. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Texas Rangers. We're going to see Ben Lively for Cleveland, no official starter for the Rangers. Now, we'll have to see who the official starter is, but right now I do like the Rangers team total over, and I would more than likely take the Rangers in this game because I really like their matchup against Ben Lively. And, Ben Lively is somebody I've mentioned the regression concerns. He's got a 2.63 ERA, but a 4.45 expected ERA, 4.19 xFIP. And the big reason for that is Lively's never really been that strikeout guy. I mean, in certain spots in the minor leagues, he was able to rack up some more strikeouts. But at the major league level, we saw last year 8.02 Ks per nine, and in AAA, 6.06. So he's never really been able to consistently miss bats, but at the beginning of the season this year, he was earning a ton of strikeouts out of nowhere. But when you looked at the chase rate and the whiff rate for Lively, they were still well below league average. So it didn't seem that those strikeout numbers were going to be sustainable for him. And lo and behold, the last game against the White Sox, he goes 5 2/3 innings, and he only has 2 strikeouts with 3 walks given up, 8 base hits, a lot of sharp contact, and 3 runs as well. And while he was just 1 out shy of a quality start, it really wasn't a great outing. He kind of took his team out of the game early in that one. He was able to battle back, but against this Rangers lineup, one of the best lineups, if not the best lineup in the American League, I really worry about Lively in this game. So, like I said, I'm going to take the team total over for the Rangers, and we'll have to see who the official starter is, but I like the Rangers in this one. Next up, it's the Oakland A's taking on the Houston Astros. J.P. Sears and Ronel Blanco are your starters. J.P. Sears has been rather inconsistent this year. We saw the last game against the Rangers struggle quite a bit. 8 base hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 home runs. Now the A's still went on to win that game, but not the best start for J.P. Sears. Before that, he pitched really well against the Marlins, 6 1/3 innings, a shutout ball. But before that game, it was 3 home runs, 7 earned runs against the Baltimore Orioles, and a 7-0 blowout loss. So now you're facing the Houston Astros, who, it's kind of funny enough, you were also inconsistent against last year, where you had 1 miserable start, a few decent starts to go with it. To me, the Astros are a very solid lineup against lefties. They've been that way the last few years. I don't love this matchup for J.P. Sears. Now, Ronel Blanco, I've mentioned the regression concerns with his game, and we're starting to see the walks pile up for him in recent outings like that last game against the Yankees, but the Astros have still been able to win a majority of his games. He's 4-0 personally. I think we're going to see a higher scoring game, so I like the over in this one for sure, but I also like the Houston Astros on the run line. Next up is St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Sonny Gray and Reed Detmers are your projected starters. I thought the last start for Reed Detmers was a really good bounce-back spot for him, going up against a Royals team that was not really hitting lefties too well, but no, he struggled to get again in that one. 6 earned runs, 2 home runs. It makes it 13 earned runs and 5 bombs in his last 10 2/3 innings with 6 walks to go with it. He's just not in good form. He's given up 4 or more runs in each of his last 4 starts. All those games were losses for the Angels and run line losses, 10-4, 7-1, 11-5, and 4-2. So it's Sonny Gray on the other side. I know the Cardinals have been miserable offensively, but Sonny Gray is still somebody that's pitching really well this year. The Cardinals have a good bullpen, and as long as they can continue to get after Reed Detmers, like the majority of the teams have recently, I think they'll be able to win this game. So give me St. Louis here on the money line and run line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hunter Green and Slade Cecconi are your starters. I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite game on the board. I just don't see a lot of value in this one. I'm going to lean towards the over. Hunter Green, recently, the walks are starting to concern me. 9 walks given up in the last 10 2/3 innings. He is somebody that's had some control issues in his major league career. Sometimes it's, missing inside the zone, giving up the home run ball. But if you're missing outside the zone, I know he's got great strikeout stuff, but I do worry about that against this pretty patient Diamondbacks lineup that does a good job at limiting strikeouts. And, both starting pitchers faced the opposition in the last week. Hunter Green went 5 innings, 3 runs, a home run, and the 5 walks, like I said, against Arizona. So not a great performance. Cecconi was better, but he still gave up a home run and 3 walks in 5 1/3 against Cincinnati with only 2 strikeouts to go with it. So at Chase Field here, I'm leaning towards the over. Don't really love either of these bullpens. Give me the over. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the San Diego Padres. Cal Quantrill and Dylan Cease are your starters. To me, this is a lopsided pitching matchup. I think Cease is the much better starter, even though Quantrill's been solid in his role with a sub-4 ERA as a Coors Field starter with the Rockies. That's really impressive, but I still think Cease is the much better option. I think the Padres lineup is also a lot stronger, especially with the Rockies playing on the road, and I think the bullpen, I think San Diego has a much better bullpen. So while the price is, it's very, very steep, so there's not a lot of value in a game like this, I'm going to take San Diego, lay 1.5 and 2.5 runs to try to get some more plus money on our side. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners hosting the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha and Logan Gilbert are your starters. Logan Gilbert was pitching so well. After that not-so-great game against the Brewers on April 5th, the next 5 starts against some tough teams, he went 2 earned runs or fewer in all those games. Great strikeout numbers up until that last game against Minnesota. And, the Twins have been red hot offensively, but still, Gilbert got crushed in that one. 8 earned runs, 9 base hits, and a home run. I'm not too worried about that. I think, just one bad game. Gilbert has still pitched really well consistently this season. He's got a sub-2 ERA at home this year in 20 innings of work, 23 strikeouts, only the 3 walks and 1 home run at home, at 157 opponent's batting average. He has been very sharp at T-Mobile Park. I think he bounces back, even though this is also a tough matchup against Kansas City. They've been good against righties, but Michael Wacha has consistently struggled this year. That's the difference for me in this one. He's got that ERA above 5. He's got an ERA above 5 on the road. The control's been an issue. He had 5 walks in that last game against the Angels. While it was still a quality start, I don't love to see that control. A lot of base hits, a lot of base runners in general. He's had 8 or more base hits given up in 3 of the last 4 games. You add those 5 walks, I just can't trust Wacha in this ball game, and I think the Mariners have a big advantage in the bullpen. So give me Seattle in this one on the run line. And the final game we're to talk about for the Tuesday card in Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Keaton Winn are your projected starters. Now, originally we thought Yamamoto was going to go on Monday. They moved him to Tuesday. I mentioned I think he pitches well in this game. He's pitching really well after a rough start to his Major League career, and in spring training he didn't really pitch too well. He's been very solid. I didn't love the 2 home runs given up in that last game against Miami, especially the leadoff home run to Jazz Chisholm, but I still think he's pitching really well, and I think he pitches well in this one. Now, Keaton Winn on the other side is somebody that really relies on the ground ball outs, and he's got, similar to Logan Webb and Jordan Hicks, he's got that ground ball percentage right under 57% on the year. Last year was at 58%, but recently, and we saw that last game against the Rockies, he wasn't able to get those ground ball outs, and he struggled mightily against it was an 8-10 ground ball to fly ball ratio against Colorado at Coors Field. It was 7 earned runs, a lot of extra base hits. It was a home run, I think a couple of doubles and a couple of triples, honestly, for the Rockies in that game against Keaton Winn, and it was an ugly 9-1 loss. Before that game against the Phillies, he only had a 3-2 ground ball fly ball ratio, which he didn't really pitch long in the games. That's why he only went 2/3 of an inning. He gave up the 5 earned runs in a 14-3 Giants loss. Now you look at the beginning of the season, he faced this Dodgers lineup on April 1st, and he struggled in that game, giving up 3 earned runs in 5 innings, ended up being an 8-3 Dodgers win, and it makes sense because the Dodgers, like we mentioned, have the lowest ground ball percentage in Major League Baseball at 35.6%, about 5 percentage points less than the next team, the Seattle Mariners. So to me, this is a miserable matchup for Keaton Winn. It's not, it's unfortunate for him after struggling against Colorado and Philadelphia that this is your next matchup, but I think the Dodgers take advantage. I think they win this game and cover the run line. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.